What is your motivation? Most of the time, they'll say things like, I like helping others. Again, surface level. They may say, well, I like freedom. But when you go down the rabbit hole of, well, is freedom really the motivator? Let's just say that now you have all the time in the world. What are you going to do with that time? And we start going down those questions. Okay, let's just say you have freedom. What does freedom look like to you? When you start asking those questions, actually you even help them understand.
Welcome, entrepreneurs, to Pay or Quit,
where we reveal the gritty truth behind business success.
People see the glory, but not the struggle it takes to get there.
We're here to share the real stories of entrepreneurs navigating the tough intersection of business and relationships. I'm Tony Klein.
And I'm Shawn Johnson. And together we'll guide you through the real challenges faced as serial entrepreneurs.
Join us for the untold stories behind the scenes.
Buckle in, it might get messy. I'm here today with a dear friend, the man, the myth, the legend, Peter Hernandez, who has been a CEO of several awesome companies and now is the founder of a company called PMH, who really focuses on the relationship side of the business with people. And, every business is a people business. So I'm super excited to have you here, Peter. Give me the rundown of how you view culture and relationships in business.
First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity for having me. Yeah, you're a great friend, and got the invitation. It felt really excited to be a part of this. Uh, People and relationships in any organization, I think, are the heartbeat. And I say that I've used that analogy a couple of times because um, you've got you've got your three, sometimes four legs of a business, depending on how you look at it. But systems, processes, all of course make up the business. However, the relationships play a huge factor and really allow for an opportunity for growth within for the business. So that could be relationships from the organization itself with its clients. That could be relationships between the owner, operator, and its employees. It could be relationships between the organization and its vendors or providers, service providers. So I think anyone would agree that those relationships, whichever they are vital and important to the organization. Um, I think they're important because it's we've all heard this. It's what is it? They like you, they respect you, and they'll do business with you. I think that's what it is, right? And so, of course, you don't get to really know someone. You don't really get to like someone or respect them unless you get to know them. And so, relationships, I think, are a huge part of any organization, any business.
Yeah, oftentimes I think, employees feel intimidated by their superiors. And it's almost like just the environment, right? Like that environment just fosters that intimidation, if you will. How would you counsel somebody to be able to overcome that as a superior, if you will? Like, it's not about being, the overlord, if you will, of the employee. It's about having a relationship. How would you counsel them to overcome that, maybe that stigmatism that we often see in business?
It's a great question, and I think I would actually probably coach or consult with the owner or operator. Uh, if your staff, if your team has or an employee or two has that perception, it could be something that you're doing to give people that perception. And so I think I would coach the owner or operator on uh, how they're going about building relationships with their team or staff. Now, I will caution or I will say this: those relationships don't mean you become your employee or your team or your staff's best friend by any means. That's not what the relationship, what the meaning of building the relationship is. But I would coach that owner or operator, depending on how involved they are in the day to day. I would coach them on getting their team, helping their team and their staff to see them as a support, really more than a someone there who is there to dictate or pass orders. I think when the team sees you as support, they see you as a mentor. They see you as someone that they can come to and ask, someone that they're willing to learn from. And so, if you think of it that way, if you position yourself to be someone that your employees are willing to learn from, or wanting to learn from, I think that stigma of intimidation. He is the boss, he is the owner. I don't know if I can just have a open conversation with him or her. I think it goes away. It goes away when you position yourself as someone that's there to support and someone who's willing and to offer any guidance, any education or training.
Yeah, I view that as like a mentorship, a mentor and a mentee
Yeah.
relationship, and I agree with you. I think when the superior views himself as a mentor, I'm going to coach this person to be the best they can be. It removes a lot of barriers, and oftentimes they uh, they then don't view their job as transactional. Now it has meaning behind it. Somebody's helping guide me along to be the best version of myself. And now, if that's the case, how do I become the best version of myself? So I'm not only creating value for this company, but my superior, the person that has taken interest in caring for me, and also for myself. Right? I mean, that's why people work. We're there to first and foremost provide a living for ourselves. But
Yeah.
oftentimes, I think when those mentors view it as something bigger than themselves and bigger than the company themselves, on how do I cultivate somebody, you often see those barriers drop.
I agree. It reminds me of a podcast I was listening to this morning. It's called Think Fast, Talk Smart. It was they brought up a point about the environment within any business. If as an employer, owner, operator, if you start losing that sense of your employees wanting to come to you to learn, uh, then you're failing in the relationship building part of things. Because I think we just do it naturally. I know I've picked up the phone and texted you a couple of times, to ask you, for some suggestions, some guidance, some direction. I think we do that naturally with our friends. I think we do that naturally with the people that we feel close to. So it's no different in a business. And that was the point of that podcast is, uh, if you position yourself, if you create that environment where your team knows that they can come to you and feel like they're gonna gain something, they're gonna gain knowledge, they're gonna learn something new, then you've done a good job of creating relationships. On the other hand, if you don't, and your employees may not even see you as a source of knowledge, then there's definitely an opportunity for to keep building those relationships.
Yeah, yeah, and as you've been in some high caliber leadership roles, say for instance, the employees don't, there's that relationship that doesn't have that mentor mentee relationship, if you will. What are some like first steps somebody can take to really shift the wind, if you will, on gaining that different relationship that they should have?
So maybe from the owner or operator perspective.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good question, and I think it's important to understand or to get to know what motivates your team. I am a firm believer that it's not always money.
Mhm.
It's not always money that motivates people, and so getting to understand and getting to know what motivates your team is a great way to go in the right direction of building that relationship with your staff. Um, I've been working with a couple of companies and I've gotten to really understand how most people, and this is why I say that money is not always the motivator. Um, People will leave um, because of maybe lack of structure, lack of organization, other things that frustrate them, and it's not always directly associated with money. And that's very we've kind of find out that's very true because on the other hand, people will stay. It's interesting. It's almost like twofold. People will stay if even if they're offered more money.
Mhm.
if they have the right structure, if they feel like they have contribution to the bigger picture, people will hang around and not take more money or the other offer, because now they are a part of, it's a word that you and I were talking about earlier. It's a word that maybe gets used a lot and maybe in different ways, but now they're a part of a culture. They're a part of a team.
Mhm.
And so it's really interesting that when you get to know your team, when you get to know your employees, and you understand what motivates them, that's, I think, the first step in understanding or being able to, again, create those relationships. So motivation is important. And then if you can, again, this is not, we're not talking about becoming best friends with your team or employees, but if you're able to also understand why that motivates them, that's also a huge a step in the right direction. Because as you and I know, if you know what motivates you, it's great. But we all have to understand, in order to in order to know what motivates us, we got to start with the why, right? And you know that, right? So whatever it is, why is that the motivation? And so that the why really becomes the true reason, the true answer for, why any one of us is motivated. So I think those two things, if you're able to really dial into that, what motivates my team or each one of my employees, and why, um, then again, it creates a relationship. You're able to go to that employee, you're able to go to your team every so often and ask them, how things are going in their goals, how things are going in achieving, what it is that motivates them. So that's definitely two steps that I always um, bring up when I'm coaching some of the operators or owners.
Yeah, how do you distill down what motivates somebody?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's funny because the first answer is usually never the right answer. It's never, I shouldn't say the right, it's never the true
That's
answer.
the surface answer.
Uh, it's a surface answer. Exactly. Right. So you ask someone, okay, what is your motivation? And most of the time they'll say things like, well, I like helping others. Okay. That's, again, surface level. They may say, well, I like freedom. Okay, freedom. But when you go down the rabbit hole of, well, is freedom really the motivator? Okay, let's just say that now you have all the time in the world. What are you going to do with that time? And we start going down those questions. Okay, let's just say you have freedom. What does freedom look like to you? And they could say, well, I'd like to be able to maybe just work 3 days a week. Okay, so freedom represents not working 2 days a week. So what are you going to do with those 2 days? When you start asking those questions, you really get to you help, actually, you even help them understand what it is that motivates them. You say freedom of time. Does that mean you're going to lay in bed for 2 days because you don't have anything to do? Well, no, it usually gets substituted. It means being able to now use your time in things that you enjoy and that you like, right? At the end of the day, it probably comes down to, in that example of freedom, it may come down to wanting to maybe spend more time with family, maybe travel more, etc. Right. And so having those conversations, and I get it. It's not something that an owner or an operator has, all day, right? To just walk around the office and talk to each one of the employees and say, "Hey, so what motivates you? What is it that the owner doesn't have the time to do that? Operator doesn't have the time to do that, right?" So that's why I think it's crucial, and you're seeing it more and more. You're seeing the chief people. My dog just went and laid back there. Chief people officer position come up a lot more. I don't know if you're seeing it,
Yep.
right? And so
Chief experience
um
officer, or yeah, whatever. Yeah.
chief
People
experience
officer,
officer
yep.
as well. Yeah. And so one thing that I'll say is that a chief people officer is not your HR. That's not who is now going to wear both hats. If you got someone that's doing taking care of HR, or if you're outsourcing HR, they are not your chief people officer, right? The this position, this that we're hearing a lot more is who these organizations are hiring to really take a a deeper dive into the relationships, the motivations, the expectations, the coaching. How do you help? You've got the right person. They may need some help. How do you make sure that they're getting the right training consistently? How do you make sure that their expectations are always clear? So again, I understand that owners or operators, don't have all the time in the day to just go and have these conversations all the time. But that's why I think you're seeing a lot more of these positions, creative. I think very creative titles come up more and more in different organizations.
Yeah, I see it as a market condition, if you will, that the jobs market is tight, and to get and retain top talent has become tougher and tougher. And if I'm going to get if I'm going to put all these resources into training and getting somebody on board with my vision, my company culture, on how we do business, then I want them to stay, right? And then I don't want them to stay only. I want them to thrive in the business. And how does this if this person is thriving in the business, then it gets rid of so many issues like
It
complacency,
does.
not being
Oh,
comfortable,
absolutely, it
toxicity.
does.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and it benefits. So think of it. Think of this. Recent research shows that 70% of people that leave their job do not communicate the true reason why they're leaving until the exit interview.
And it's too late then.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's too late. It's yeah, it's very late. So if 70% of people are doing that, then here's the bigger question is how long have they been feeling that way and not being able to produce uh, to the best of their ability?
Yeah.
How maybe the more honest question is how long ago did they really quit on you? They may have quit 6 months ago or 12 months ago, right? And so if no one is finding out, if no one is having evaluations and no one's having, the a plan for to help someone achieve KPIs or hit goals. These conversations aren't taking place, actively. Um, then I say it like this: shame on the employer, and not shame on the employee,
Totally.
right? And so 70% of people leaving their jobs aren't communicating, or aren't telling anyone why they're leaving until the exit interview. Problem number one. Another problem is, what if you don't even have exit interviews?
Hmm.
What if you don't that's not even part of your practice? Well, people are leaving, and human tendency is to say that people leave for two reasons. Well, they got a better offer. And sometimes that's the case. Other reason that people always say that people leave is, well, they just weren't the right person for the job. Well, that also could be true. But if people are leaving, and it may not be the same position, I think I told you this a couple of weeks ago. There was a person that I talked to and said that they had gone through about 40 something employees in 2024. You can only say it's not the right person so many times, because at some point you've got to look at, well, who keeps hiring the wrong person, right? And that's you. So a lot of things, a lot of conversation around that, a lot of conversation around exit interviews. If you're having them, great. Um, but what are you doing? That's at that point, you said it's like you said, it's too late, right? So anything that you do is reactive. Um, Another thing is when you aren't having these conversations, when you're not having these evaluations, when you're not having these plans in place to help build your team. Another thing that happens is you lose somebody, and studies show that on average, it takes you about 3 months to replace that person if you're lucky. 3 months. So imagine that someone leaves in any position, depending on the size of the organization. That could mean that you, as an owner and operator, now has to jump back in the trenches for a while. And so when are you posting for a job? When are you interviewing? When are you sorting through resumes? When are you, conducting any kind of phone interviews or in-person interviews? It's probably the last thing that you're doing because now you're in the day-to-day again, right? And so uh 3 months is what they say on average is what it takes to replace someone. So think of not just the time, the resources, your time, the money spent. And so relationships are super important in being able to get in front of those things before it's too late.
Yeah, and I always used to say that the most expensive employee you have is the one that's silent quitting, because what they're not articulating or communicating is that they are going to quit, but they are silent quitting, and so their interactions with other staff is not up to par. Their interaction with customers and clients is not good. Their attention to detail is gone because they really don't care at that point. They're looking for something new, right? So you got to get in front of the silent quitting before the quitting, because it
Yeah,
it is costly, and the business will suffer because of it.
absolutely. You said something that I talk to every one of my clients about is if you are trying to improve your client or your customer experience, that is directly associated with what you are doing with your team.
Mm.
It's directly associated with not how much you pay your employee. It's directly related with um, how your employee views, what they get to do for the organization every day, right? Do they feel like they're a contributor? Do they feel like they play an important part in the overall success and even mission of the organization? And so it's when you have those conversations, when you make sure that they feel that they are a part of those daily, weekly, monthly meetings, when they feel like they can come to you with ideas and those ideas are heard, um, then they feel like they're a part of the organization, right? They feel like they are a part of what you're trying to do, as a company. But more importantly, your business thrives, right? Because I'm not gonna name any names, but there's a very famous. I don't know if it's even a fast food franchise or not. It's a franchise that's not open on Sundays. Let me put it to you that way.
That
And
narrows it down.
that narrows it down for you, right? You know, think of that franchise, and I think anyone, I don't know, I mean, there's always gonna be someone that's a little disgruntled about something, right? But I think most people that you talk to will tell you that the level of customer service within that franchise is just amazing. Is it because those kids, or is it because those employees have a six-figure salary? Absolutely not. So why is it that those organizations, why is it that those and other organizations similar to those, why do they excel when it comes to the client experience?
People matter.
Well, that's where
Yeah.
yeah, you take a deeper dive with these organizations to look at, again, the culture, the core values, and lots of other things, because all of that has a huge impact on your overall business.
My pleasure.
Exactly.
No, you're saying it. I mean, you think at the root of a company that has a culture like that, they understand that business on the foundational level is not just transactional; it is relational, and how people view each other. I always like I go to, you go to another fast food place, and instead of saying, "What else can I do for you today?" they say, "Is that all? Is that all?" I mean,
Yeah.
that simple
Yeah.
"is that all" 3 words ruins the experience. What a huge difference. Instead of saying, "What else can I do for you?" Massive.
It's what we communicate. It's what we say. So it's what we say as leaders, as an owner and operator. It trickles down, right? That made me think of, this is just a what do you call that? It's just something that just bugs me personally, but
Pet peeve.
the pet peeve. There you go. So, when you do something and you say thank you, I don't know. I'm from Texas. I just, grew up. You say thank you. You say you're welcome. You open the door. Those kind of things. But nowadays, you say thank you to someone, and more times than not, you hear the person say no problem.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they feel that no problem is the same thing as you're welcome, but it's not.
Yeah.
Right? Those two words, right? No problem. It means you kind of inconvenience me, but I'm okay with that. Right? And so yeah, think of, you're welcome. It's a whole different message. So you're absolutely right. Those 2 3 words, how people carry themselves, how people speak, how people conduct themselves, how they represent your organization is not just a reflection of the owner or operator, but it's again, it's the overall success of the business.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. How do you kind of view uh, when leadership is vulnerable? And should they be vulnerable? And what does that do to the strength or weakness of a relationship?
I think owners or leadership can become very vulnerable, and that's where, depending on the structure of the organization, that's where making sure that leadership also has continuous education and continuous training is important. Um, Leadership can expose themselves or become very vulnerable, if you will, when they themselves aren't doing something to keep improving their leadership skills. And there's a lot of, I'm going to call it, a lot of excuses for that. And most of the time, it could be, the most often answer is, I don't have time.
Mm.
Right. Well, a leader will continue to educate themselves to, go and look for knowledge independently. It's not something that a true leader will not wait until it's something that is expected from the organization. Right. A true leader is not going to wait for, the owner or the C-suite team to come down and say, hey, I need you to take this course. I need you to read this book. I need you to listen to this podcast because I think it would really help you in your overall role. Um, True leaders will look for that knowledge on their own, and so they can become vulnerable when they don't, when they stop seeking knowledge. When they stop seeking knowledge, then it almost becomes like, I don't know if this is the right analogy or not, but it's almost like when a parent tells a kid, hey, I need you to do this, but they don't do it, and the kid might turn around and say, well, why should I do it if you don't do it?
Right.
Right. So that vulnerability is definitely a concern, but that's, again, it's how is what are the practices as an organization? How often are they coming together? Is it quarterly? Is it once a year, twice a year, to make sure that everyone is rising at the same pace?
Yeah, and the flip side of that, I see the vulnerability can be a strength too when a leader or a company makes a mistake and they own up to it and says,
Mm.
we screwed up here. We could have handled that differently. I think that actually strengthens the relationship with the staff a lot of times. So I think it can be viewed both ways, personally. Um, but
I agree. I agree. In that example, I think you're exactly right, because guess what? Mistakes are going to happen, right?
Mm,
And so when now uh, an employee makes a mistake, then they will probably bring it up, present it and say, hey, this happened. Now I know that I could have handled it better, or I wasn't sure how to handle it. Right. And so that's where, again, it allows for that relationship between employees and leadership team to be something that they're comfortable to have dialogue about.
yeah. Yeah, not be afraid. Well, I think a lot of times, employees, if there isn't a good relationship, often want to hide it because they're afraid that they might get
Mhm.
chastised or disciplined off of the mistake. And the reality is, people are people, right? We're going to make mistakes. When we make a mistake, it's how we then, react to the oops instead of hiding it or whatever, coming forth with, I made a mistake and this is what it caused. This is what I learned from it. This is how I'll handle it going forward. And I think that goes a long ways when leadership also takes that kind of approach where, yeah, I screwed up. Or like, for instance, when I was a CEO, um, and of Home Vault, and we made a big decision to go this direction, and it soon became apparent that wasn't the right decision, and I got a all hands on meeting with the staff, and I said, "Hey guys, I made a mistake. We went down the wrong path here, and we thought it was the risk worth taking, and it ended up not being the right direction. But we're going to shift gears and go this direction because we now see that that opportunity wasn't." It didn't work out like we planned, and I think it's strength. Overall, at least from my perspective, it strengthened company culture when a CEO can be vulnerable
Absolutely.
on a oops.
Absolutely. And I think rather than looking at, and it's hard to do. I really do understand that it's hard to do, but looking at any of those, you know, mistakes, errors, or whatever you want to call them, looking at those things as opportunities at that very moment is sometimes difficult to do, but they really are an opportunity.
Mm.
And this is where, again, leadership. How does leadership handle those opportunities? Leadership makes a mistake, they own it. Uh, it builds that trust between employees and leadership.
Mm.
On the flip side, if it's the employee that made the mistake, again, it's an opportunity, right? And I think if viewed more from that light, I think it would definitely help help in the overall success. You don't want the last thing that you want is mistakes happening and no one saying anything until it's too late.
How do you view, as we see the business environment changing with more process, more automation, more AI in everything that we do? How do you envision like the company culture and the employee employer relationship?
Yeah, it's interesting, especially with all the talk about AI. Um, I could see, um, I could see the landscape changing, to a more technical, um, approach when it comes to maybe training employees, when it comes to and I know there's been for some time, some directive like that. There could be, every periodic, quizzes that come up through different, organizations that they require that their employees take. But I think it could probably transition, um, and I think it could be harmful in a sense. Transition to a fully, just tech, or AI, support, way of training, and even hiring or developing, staff. So I think that's a possibility. I think AI and a lot of, tech is a great support, for everything that involves the hiring and the training and the developing. But that's why my favorite phase is it's still a people business, right? And I'm a firm, believer. I'm a big fan of Marcus Lemonis, and his philosophy is people, process, product. And so he always says that you have the right people, you train the people, you give the people everything that they need to be successful, you develop the right process, then you'll have an excellent product.
Mm.
But the foundation of any organization is going to be people. And so I could see how AI and tech and some of those things are definitely going to impact, that side of any business. But the people element is, I don't think it's ever gonna just go away. I was talking to somebody about that the other day, and they said, things are just very convenient because of technology. And I mean, we all love it. We all use it, right? Whether it's DoorDash, whether it's Uber, anything like that, right? Uh, Technology has definitely raised, the experience and the expectations. But I use a small example. It may have not been the best one, but he was asking me about AI and how that was going to change the landscape. I said, I asked him when's the last time he went to the movies, theater. He said, it's been a little while. I said, how did you purchase your tickets? And, he said, well, was on the phone, did the mobile app, and I purchased my movie tickets that way, got to the theater, scanned it, and walked in. Didn't have to deal with any lines or anything like that. I said, absolutely. That's the purpose, right? Makes it convenient, makes it easy. I said, now, you probably watched the trailer to the movie. And he said, yeah, that's why I went to go watch it. I said, perfect. Okay. Now, when you purchased the ticket, you scanned, you purchased it on your mobile phone, you did all that, you went about your way. Remember back in the old days, you would go to the booth, to the window, you'd walk up, right? Usually back to the culture, back to customer service, back to client facing, there was someone there, and you would hope that they, after you told them how many tickets you wanted and what movie you were going to watch, if they've already seen the movie, sometimes they'd say, "Oh, you're going to like it. It's a really good movie." That's something that you're not getting when you're purchasing your tickets on your phone or on an app or anything like that. Now, I get it. Not everyone wants that experience, but there's still a big number of people who that small conversation, if someone were to say, "You're going to love that movie. It's one of my favorites. I just watched it last week." That just immediately changes your point of view, your perspective, your expectations when you walk into that theater.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of things have removed that human element. Unfortunately, it's too bad. But as I look at building or having a relationship with your staff and having that that culture within the business, there often becomes a balance between the structure and the flexibility of the relationship. I always thought, and I think this is true, is when I have a relationship with my team beyond just the transactional, like here's the job to do, here's the expectations, and I expect them to be done. I always felt like I can ask more because we have a relationship deeper than just you come to work and you clock out at the end of the day. So how would you like really advise on how do you balance the structure versus the flexibility that is gained from having this a tighter relationship, if you will, from your with your staff?
It's a great question, and yes, you do have to balance it. There has to be boundaries. Absolutely, there has to be. Um, but it's no different from when it's done correctly. It's no different from knowing that you have a helper, if you will, right? So that person may be your immediate supervisor, your manager, could be the owner of the company, but if you create the right relationship to where you have someone that is there to help you, you also create respect in the sense of, okay, I can go to that person, ask for some help, but you're not going to abuse that help. And what I mean by that is the mentality can sometimes be, well, if I hired someone to do something and they're coming to me to ask, then why'd I even hire them? Maybe I should just do it. Well,
Mm.
again, that's a negative way of thinking or looking at it, right? Yeah. If someone isn't qualified, then there's some decisions to make. But if someone's coming to you and asking for direction, asking for guidance, look at it as an opportunity. Or would you rather them not come to you and then deal with the consequences?
Mm.
Right. And so there's a fine balance. So when you create that right space of knowing that they have someone that they can go to, a helper, like I said, then I think that's the right approach. Because that also keeps boundaries. That also allows for the serious conversations that sometimes have to take place to happen when they need to happen.
Yeah, let's shift gears just a little bit. What has been your darkest moment that you faced as an entrepreneur? I love asking this question, by the way.
Eesh. Yeah. Oh man.
It's not
So
always roses and butterflies, is it?
no, it's no. The idea, the concept is roses and butterflies, right? But then you go down the road, start going down the road, and you realize, yeah. So darkest moments is probably, so I'm a big fan of Shark Tank. I'm a big fan of The Profit. And so I watch those things a lot. If I'm ever at a conference and I'm back in my room, that's exactly what I'm watching. But I darkest moment is probably when you ask yourself, and it's not doubting it. What for me, it wasn't doubting, an ability. It wasn't doubting, my confidence or anything like that. It was more of doubting whether you had created. And here's a question I think anyone at some point you should ask yourself. You should ask yourself: Is did I create something that is a solution to a problem, or is it did I create something that and do I need to create the problem to present my solution? Right. And so does that make sense? It's understanding whether, sometimes you think, am I a little too early or am I a little too late, with what I'm trying to do? And so doubting maybe the direction that you should take the product in is sometimes yeah, that's probably, that doubt, because all kinds of questions come to mind after that. It's like, well, should I've you start maybe second guessing some decisions.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think we all naturally go through that, and I don't know who coined it, but there's like this phases of evaluating an opportunity, and first you're like super optimistic, and then you're like a little bit pessimistic, and then you get into the valley of despair and you're like, this is the dumbest idea, like this is horrible.
Yeah,
And then if you
yeah,
that's where most people quit, by the way. They quit and then they go back to the first phase optimism on a new
yeah,
idea, and they go through it again, and they go to valley of
yeah,
despair and never push through, and they just keep that. It's the start something new today, start something new tomorrow, and repeat,
yeah,
instead of
yeah,
how do I push through the valley of despair and get through the now I'm um pessimistically optimistic about it, and then it's
yeah,
success. If I could push through
yeah,
those two phases, then it becomes successful. Most people never see that because they give up and they're like, oh, it sucks being
yeah,
in the valley of despair. That's what I heard you say when you're thinking through like the hardest moment you've had so far as an entrepreneur. I think we all go through that. We're like, this isn't
yeah.
as easy as
No,
I thought.
exactly, I love the way you phrased it. But I'll tell you what though. I'm very fortunate, very very fortunate to have um a close group of friends, a small group, close group of friends that I was having this conversation with one of them. Must have been yesterday, I think. And I refer to these, they're my friends, they're personal friends, and they're not just colleagues, but they're friends, and I love them. But I was telling one of them yesterday. I said I surround myself with who I call big thinkers,
Mm,
and especially in the moments where you start kind of maybe doubting, questioning, or you just quite honestly may not even know the answer. You're like, okay, shoot, what do I do now, right? Um, so I call these big thinkers, and here's why. This group of friends, they'll never tell you. You don't go to these friends because that they're going to tell you what you want to hear. Otherwise, it just wouldn't be good friends, right? Uh, but this is what they all have in common: is that they will listen, and then they will say, you know what, that's not a bad idea. Have you considered this?
mm.
Have you thought of this? Or what do you think of maybe going in this direction? And so what I mean by that is you can have another group of friends who you explain the exact same situation to, and they may say, yeah, that doesn't sound like it's going to work, man. I would just trash that.
Yeah.
But the big thinkers, they see every one of these obstacles as an opportunity. Well, wait a minute. Okay. Well, maybe you're at a roadblock, but what if you turned left? And that opens up this bigger opportunity. So those big thinkers, I love those. I love my friends. That small group. They just that's who I surround myself with, especially in those moments of doubt, or when you start questioning myself.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely all go through those, and it's interesting. The people that are around us that have never done it, whatever the it is, typically, that's the feedback you get from them is like, "Oh, don't do that." But the ones that are, like, successful and have been there, done that, they just give you, like, guidance on, "Oh, have you thought of it this way?" Or, "I think you're onto something here, but maybe just, just nudge it a little bit and massage it out." That's exactly how I found it. The people in my circle that, are not driven or maybe even successful in a business standpoint, they'll if you throw them an idea, they're gonna tell you every reason why it's not gonna work.
Exactly, exactly. So it goes back to your relationships, right? So I've got friends who I wouldn't have those conversations with because, I know that that's not the right audience,
Yeah.
right? But then and so yeah, that's been super helpful. As you probably know, I think they always say that just taking that leap as an entrepreneur is the one thing that most people never do.
Yeah.
They have all these ideas, they have all these dreams, and they say, "Oh, I bet if I did this," but they don't jump off the cliff, if you will.
Yeah.
And so that's that was just a little bit of not to go back, but that was my thing for a long time. I was a part of these great organizations and fortunate enough to where three of them were basically startups.
Mm.
And so went from being startup, companies to now being, national companies. And so I read this book, and I think I posted somewhere about this. I read a post where it said, "You can either go out and build your own dreams, or someone will hire you to build theirs."
Yep.
When I read that quote, or when I read that, that was for me, and I think I'll forever say this. That was for me the moment when I was like, bing, the light bulb went off. Because I had gone, in a great, and not, no regrets. The experience behind that, the knowledge that everything that I've learned has helped me now. But it was time to build my own dreams.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think so often, even as entrepreneurs, business owners have taken that leap of faith to build their own dreams, we then utilize the business to just be the job, the job, and forget about the opportunities the business actually is affording us. But we have to seize the opportunities. Otherwise, they just become uh, adrift, a
Yeah.
drifter in it, if you will. So I love that you mentioned that. That's a cool saying. You're either going to bring it or build it for somebody else or yourself. Fact.
Yeah.
True statement.
And especially when you think about it, like, okay, there's some of these things involved, like having a nice leadership position, C-suite position, great title, great money. But at the end of the day, and that's exactly what that quote said, you're building someone else's dreams.
So true.
So it
So
was not for everyone, but it was a time.
totally, yeah. And so one thing is we've become friends, real close friends over the years. One thing I view you as, Peter, is somebody that has this talent for bringing other people together. And as I see this new venture that you're embarking on, I love it because like you have this ability to bring on top-notch speakers. You have some events coming up that I'd love for you to share, like what really inspired you to bring this together, why, and how does it actually impact um, the marketplace?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So you said it now. I've had other friends and peers tell me, describe me that way.
Mm.
They've even said, you're a connector, is it's what they've said. Uh, I aside from consulting, aside from working with organizations to help them, with their growth, their revenue, profitability, and their staff. Um, Aside from that, I wanted to create an environment where events really where I could bring, as I'm working with these organizations and their owners or operators, and um, they may have been in the business longer than I have. Uh, so I wanted to create an environment or events where I could bring these some of these owners together, because they may be experiencing challenges that someone else experienced, 5 years ago or 3 years ago. And so rather than whatever the business is that I'm working with. There's no better. I feel that there's no better solution than to bringing folks that are running the same race, if you will. They're running the same race, not from a business 101 perspective, but from when you get into the weeds, right? So let's just say property management, for example. you know what does a lease involve? What does maintenance involve? What does business development within property management, what does that involve? So when you bring operators or owners that are they're running down that same road together, uh I for me it's a feeling of success, because I get to be a part of seeing them not just contribute, have great dialogue, and bring forth some great help for each other. But I really just enjoy the part of being able to create that environment for them, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes
So
total sense. Yeah, I mean, I see like when you have driven people in the same room or at the same event, there's something super contagious about it.
yeah,
It's interesting, as all of the conferences I've been to, there's that subset, that minority subset that is the ones that go to the conference and then execute what they learned. And if
yeah,
those folks start to gravitate towards each other and they throw ideas off each other. It's that contagious nature.
yeah,
That's what I love about what you're putting together on these events, that you got top-notch speakers who are those implementers that go and make things happen. The people that attend it naturally want to be in that environment, because it drives them forward. So kudos. I'm
yeah.
excited to see these. Can you kind of tell us some details on what you got going on? Or
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, oh, absolutely. And so, got a couple of them coming up. We've got 4 events coming up in 2025. First one will be in March in Arizona. That is a mastermind group. Again, we're keeping these very very small, very exclusive, because we want to make sure that we create the right dynamics and environment, so that great dialogue can take place, a great discussion. So March, Phoenix, Arizona. There was so many applications that came through for that one, that we're putting together a second event also in Phoenix. That'll be the first one will be a 3-day mastermind event. The second one will be a 1-day workshop. And so that one's already that's a lot of great reception for that one as well. Then June, we'll be putting on a 1-day workshop here in Austin, Texas. That's going to be our third event of the year. Very specific to profitability, very specific to maintenance and business development within the property management space. And then our last one for the year, that one actually we literally just finalized the arrangements and everything for that one earlier this morning. That'll be in November 10th through the 13th, and this will be an international mastermind event. And what we're doing with this one is we're being very very selective with the entrepreneurs that we bring along for this one. We want to make sure that we provide the drive, the knowledge, the experience, so that they really, the folks that attend this one, again, walk away with not just create a relationship at the event, but walk away with maybe a different perspective, whether it's in property management or outside of property management. Because I'm a firm believer of every business can be a business. It's just a different product, right? But
Mm.
the basis is still the same. And so we're bringing together some great entrepreneurs for this last one. This will be November 10th to the 13th, and it'll be in Argentina.
Patagonia,
So
baby. Mm.
yes, so we're really really looking forward to it. Like I said, we just finalized all the arrangements this morning. Uh, Got a great nice lodge, so we're gonna combine some entertainment with it as well. We're gonna have a little fun. So it'll be a dove hunt in Argentina, and we're really excited about this one. We've gotten a lot of great reception for it, and I think that'll be one that'll become very popular and ongoing. So, um, Brad Larson and myself have partnered up to put this last event of the year together. It's only open to 15 entrepreneurs, and there is
No, it's only 10 now,
6.
remember?
That's right. It was 15. Now we're down to, I think we've sold we've got maybe 5 or 6 seats left, I think. But it's an all inclusive. It's a great, beautiful lodge in Argentina, out in the country. Great hunting, but most of all, very excited for the great conversations that I know will take place around the fireplace in the evenings.
Yeah, I
So
love
yeah,
that.
that's some of the stuff that we're doing.
I love that. I think, one thing I've said on this podcast several times is whatever industry you are in, whatever business industry you are in, look outside of it, because there are other industries, other niches, if you will, that just do things exceptionally well, different. And it's so good to look at those. And I think these type of events just gives us the opportunity to rub shoulders with those folks that are thinking differently, have done it differently. And it's not that they're, extremely innovative, that just have been in a different space, and their decisions took them down a different path that led them to a different opportunity, if you will, or a way of doing things. So it's super super exciting. I'm excited to see how that goes and be a
I'm
part.
excited that you're going to be a part of it. You and Kristen, we
We're
are
on
very
record
excited
now.
about that. Yeah, exactly. You probably haven't asked her, but I'm excited that you guys will be there. It's the group, the lineup so far that have signed up for this thing is just amazing. And I think again, it won't just be a good time. It will be a great learning experience, great knowledge. I mean, this is a tank of very knowledgeable entrepreneurs that we're putting together.
That's phenomenal. Peter, where can people find out more about you?
So if you go to mypmh.com, you can find more information about what we do, how we help organizations, our people-centric approach, and find out more about all these events that we're putting together for 2025.
Exciting stuff. And then, you're just a humble guy, but I'd love to see you in some camo colored Crocs on one of these events. No, that's an
I don't know
internal
about the
joke.
Crocs. Well, you might get me in some waders or maybe some boots or something, but I don't know about the Crocs.
Yeah, Crocs are one of those ones. Maybe they, it's like bell bottoms. They should have died the first time.
That's right.
But no, I appreciate you
Uh,
being on today, Peter. Is there
Thank
any
you.
last words you'd like to have?
No, just thank you for the opportunity. You are, as you know, but I'd like for anyone that listens to this to also know, you are a wealth of knowledge, and you're one of those friends that I keep in my close circle that I know has got a lot of experience and someone that I look up to. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I always appreciate your guidance and your suggestions and direction. So yeah, if anyone that is not already listening to your podcast regularly, they need to.
I appreciate that. Our friendship means the world to me. So I appreciate your time today and obviously sharing your experience with us today. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next time to cut through the noise of what it really takes to be a successful entrepreneur.
If today's episode hit home, share it with a friend. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.